Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today, we're looking at USA rare earth. The big question is it a good time to buy now?
We want to hear from you. Subscribe, like, and comment to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
So let's get into the analysis. When you stack up all the material on USA rare earth, it's pretty clear this isn't a stock you're buying based on current performance.
No, not at all. You're buying a strategic future, essentially.
Exactly. The whole bull case, it really hinges on two things: critical minerals and, well, the overwhelming pressure of geopolitics.
Yeah, it's a definition of a strategic asset play. USA Rare Earth controls significant interests in the Round Top Mountain project in Texas. That's the absolute key here.
Right, because this single domestic source, it contains this incredibly vital suite of materials, stuff the U.S. currently relies on China or, other foreign supply chains for.
We're talking neodymium and praseodymium NdPr, which are sort of standard rare earths. But crucially, it also has the heavy rare earths: dysprosium, terbium.
And that's where the real bottleneck is, isn't it? The heavies, dysprosium and terbium, they're essential for high-performance magnets, the kind that can handle serious heat.
Which you absolutely need in everything from, say, F-35 fighter jets to the powerful motors in EV drivetrains. It's fundamental.
So if you want a secure, localized supply chain for clean energy and defense, well, you basically need Round Top up and running.
And they also list gallium, beryllium, and lithium on their resource map. Just broadens their strategic footprint even more.
Yeah, that combination, it creates an industry moat that, honestly, most mining companies can only dream of.
The barriers to entry here aren't just high, they're mountainous, really. You need the resource access, you need the multi-decade permitting clearance.
And, critically, the technical know-how. Processing these complex rare earth ores isn't simple stuff.
And since the whole geopolitical drive is pushing localization, a company like USAR, an established U.S. player, is just positioned perfectly, it seems. Positioned to receive institutional and maybe government support.
That's the dream scenario, definitely. But investors really need to understand the reality checks that come with it. So let's talk about the balance sheet.
Okay.
Because this tells us we're absolutely in the high-stakes execution phase right now.
Right. They have a huge market cap for a pre-profit company. Where is it? $1.96 billion USD as of late October 2025. Massive.
That scale, though, is being fueled by a pretty substantial burn rate. They haven't reported meaningful revenue for the trailing 12 months. Which, okay, that's common for development miners.
Sure, standard procedure at this stage.
But their net income for that same period, it's a negative $107.51 million.
Oof. Okay, translate that negative income for us. What does that really mean on the ground?
It means they are burning roughly, $9 million every single month just to keep the lights on and advance the project.
Wow, okay.
And earnings per share reflects that, negative $1.72. So the company is funding all this development, this massive expenditure, purely through equity raises or specialized project financing.
And here's something that makes assessing the risk even harder, right? A critical sort of maybe red flag.
What's that?
We can't really get a solid handle on their true liquidity or leverage right now. Key metrics like free cash flow, precise debt-to-cash positions, they were just unavailable in the summaries we looked at.
That's not ideal. For a company burning $9 million a month, knowing their runway, how much cash they actually have left, that's kind of everything.
Exactly. The lack of visibility there, it just means you need to be extremely cautious.
That financial uncertainty is definitely scary.
Yeah.
But look, investors aren't really buying the current balance sheet, are they?
No, they're buying the potential.
Right, and that potential is definitely reflected in the chart. So let's maybe switch gears and check the technical story.
Okay, the technicals. Yeah, this stock has been volatile. And I mean wildly volatile.
Hey, yeah, this isn't just a stock chart. It looks more like a heart rate monitor for someone doing an extreme sport.
Totally. Its 52-week range swings from a low of $5.56 to a high of almost $44. $44.
That massive swing, it just reflects the speculative nature of this whole market, doesn't it? Where one piece of news, maybe about policy or permitting, can instantly double or halve the valuation.
Yeah, exactly. The price closed recently just above $20. But the volume is what's really fascinating here.
Still very high.
It remains extremely robust, clocking in at over 11 million shares traded per day. That's significant volume.
And that high volume, it isn't just like retail enthusiasm, right? That's likely institutional money positioning itself. maybe front-running the major catalysts we should probably talk about next.
Could be. Technically speaking, the momentum is undeniably bullish right now. The stock's trading above both its 50-day and its 200-day moving averages.
Which is a classic setup for continued appreciation usually.
Right, and the MACD, that momentum indicator, it's still positive. So the market seems to be currently rewarding the strategic thesis.
Okay, so from a charting perspective, what are the key levels to watch?
Well, it looks like $19 has established itself as pretty solid near-term support. If this momentum keeps up, we could be looking at challenging resistance between $24 and $27 pretty quickly.
Okay, $24 to $27. And what if we get some really positive external news, like that government grant speculation?
Then, yeah, a retest of the $30 mark becomes entirely plausible, I think.
There's also that interesting detail you found for risk management, the beta.
Oh, right. The beta is 0.77, which is interesting because it tells you the stock isn't just moving lockstep with the S&P 500.
Meaning it has below-market volatility relative to the index.
Exactly. It suggests its swings are really driven by its own internal catalysts or sector-specific news, not just what the general market is doing day to day.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk about why that institutional money might be flowing in, the immediate catalysts.
Yeah, this is key. There are two potentially major high-impact events coming up in, the next 3 months.
First one up is the scheduled earnings release, right? November 6, 2025.
That date is absolutely crucial. Because look, since the financial numbers are expected to be negative anyway,
Investors will be ignoring the income statement.
totally, they'll zoom in entirely on management commentary. They need hard updates, project milestones, specific production metrics maybe from the pilot plant level, and hopefully favorable forward guidance on timelines.
So strong operational news is what could really spur a rally here, not the bottom line number itself.
Precisely. Then there's the second catalyst. It's speculative, sure, but potentially the biggest driver of value.
And that's the potential U.S. government action, policy or grants.
Exactly. The market chatter isn't vague. It seems highly focused on potential Department of Energy, the DOE, or maybe Department of Defense, DOD support.
And this isn't just like random rumor mill churning, is it? It aligns pretty perfectly with the current national agenda, securing domestic supply chains.
Absolutely. The DOE typically funds things like pilot plant scaling or feasibility studies, stuff designed to de-risk projects exactly like Round Top.
So if USR were to actually secure substantial funding, let's say, hypothetically, a 9-figure grant,
That would dramatically reduce that $9 million monthly burn rate we talked about, and it would validate the national strategic importance in a very concrete way. Big deal.
and we also saw some concrete operational commitment just recently, didn't we? The new hire.
Yeah, the appointment of Dr. Alex Moyes as VP of Mining. That was October 29th.
Which signals, I think, a serious intent to move from planning to full-scale operational scaling, bringing in the heavy-hitting technical expertise needed to execute on this massive task ahead.
Seems like it. And Wall Street, well, the street seems to love the story, generally speaking.
What's the analyst consensus?
The consensus rating from the 3 covering analysts is an overwhelming strong buy.
Okay, strong buy. But here's the tension, right? What's their price target range?
It's $15 to $22.
So if the stock is already trading around $20, a $22 target doesn't leave a whole lot of immediate room for growth, does it? Unless they break through that 2420 thermal resistance level you mentioned.
That's the puzzle. It raises a critical question, doesn't it? How are analysts justifying a strong buy rating when we just confirmed this massive negative cash flow and, frankly, unknown liquidity?
They must be baking in the expectation of some significant government financial intervention, right? They have to be.
It seems like it. They're essentially rating the geopolitical security asset, maybe, not the current balance sheet.
Which is a huge assumption to make. We have to be really clear about the risks involved here.
Absolutely. The reliance on financing, that huge negative net income, the lack of visibility on debt, those are company-specific risks that could turn ugly fast if the market suddenly loses faith in the strategic story.
Totally. This is purely an execution story at this point. And large-scale resource development, well, it's notorious for time delays, cost overruns, permitting headaches.
Always. If they slip on updates around the November earnings or if that government funding speculation just fizzles out,
then the stock is really exposed to a rapid correction. The market focus could snap right back to that execution risk.
And of course, stepping back, you have to mention the broader sector risks too. Commodity price volatility, rare earths, lithium. Their prices can swing wildly.
True. If global prices for these minerals collapse for some reason, even the best execution plan starts to look less compelling financially.
definitely a factor. However, if we zoom out again and look really long term,
The overall investment thesis still looks compelling, doesn't it?
I think so. The structural global deficit of these critical minerals, combined with those strong geopolitical tailwinds pushing for a U.S. supply chain security. Fundamentally, this company seems to be filling a genuine national necessity.
So when we aggregate all of this, the massive strategic position, the positive technical momentum, those imminent high-impact
But
catalysts,
weighing that against the pre-profit execution risk and that $9 million monthly burn.
the overall investment rating we analyzed, it leans pretty bullish, right? Like an 8.5 out of 10 bullish rating.
Yeah, which makes it potentially attractive for two quite different types of investors, I think.
Who are they?
Well, first, maybe the short-term tactical trader, someone betting specifically on that November earnings catalyst or near-term policy news.
Okay. And the second?
The long-term strategic investor, someone who views this as a multi-year bet on the future of American self-sufficiency in defense and clean energy. Less about the quarterly numbers, more about the big picture trend.
So USA Rare Earth. It's fundamentally a bet where strategic necessity is really pitted against current profitability.
Exactly. And the investment success seems to depend almost entirely on flawless execution and probably some significant government intervention, too.
This raises an important question for you, our listener. Given the strong government support speculation, how much is geopolitical stability actually worth to you when you're weighing the stock's current negative net income?
Yeah, something to think about as you consider your next move.